There we go. So don't be afraid to talk into the microphone because I've got it on noise cancellation in case it gets busy behind us.
Mm-hmm.
But welcome, Gabi, to the
Hi.
to the BTS Creative Academy podcast.
Thanks for having me.
That's okay. Yeah, I really appreciate you joining me. We're here at Thought Bubble, and this episode has been sponsored by Supernova Media. They like to support and help creatives, and they tell stories as well. So have a look into Supernova Media when you get a chance. I'll add links at the bottom. But for now, we're here to discover a little bit about Gabi and what it is you do, and why are you here at Thought Bubble?
I run an event series, a pop-up event called Graphic Novel Reading Room, and it's basically taking my large collection of comics and zines to different places and setting up spaces where people can come and hang out and read comics in a pretty relaxed, quietish environment.
I noticed that as I entered this top floor of this exhibition. Do we call this an exhibition, a festival? It's quite noisy downstairs, isn't it? And there's a lot going on. Whereas up here, it's a bit more chilled. And you've got a lovely little corner over there where you've got your setup, you've got all the books out and the comics out. And everyone's sitting back in some deck chairs as well.
Yes.
And in a chilled way, they look like they're having a really fun time.
Yeah, that's the aim. We all know how full-on these cons can be. Downstairs is just like a sensory overload. And I'm aiming to provide a space where people can just recharge, I suppose, and reset. It's kind of like a palate cleanser. And they can either just sit around or read the books that they bought or read new things. They can sample things from my collection.
So these are your personal books and comics.
This is my personal collection. I was here last year as well, but this year my innovation is that I have a shelf that has comics and zines from artists and from publishers who are exhibiting downstairs, and I put a little bookmark in there to say where you can find them, so you can pre-sample their work.
Nice. Okay.
Again, trying to create an easier way to approach these things, because going up to tables downstairs can be quite intense.
It can be,
and awkward. So trying to provide an opportunity for both visitors and artists to connect them. What
a wonderful way for the artist to be able to get their work out there and share it with people in this way. Do you find much engagement with the artists, or are you going out to reach to them to let them know what you do?
Yeah, it works both ways. It pretty much all happens through Instagram, and then at these kinds of events, meeting people and they coming to me and giving me things, me going to them and buying things. It's a combination of things, and my collection is actually most of it is me buying things, and then I get donations from publishers and artists and just individuals who want to get rid of some of their comics from their comics collection, and they give them to me. I have 4 boxes of new comics that I haven't even opened yet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So people want to engage with this. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that people are keen to be part of this? Because this isn't a business, is it? Is it a bit... Because no one's paying to sit over there and read the comics, are they?
Yeah, Thought Bubble is
Thought Bubble is paying, but as the public, as normal individuals, they're just welcome into the space. Yeah,
not at this event. When I'm organising my own events in Sheffield, then they pay what they like, kind of thing. Sorry, what was the question?
I'm just trying to find out, discover the engagement with the general public as they're coming into your space.
Yeah, I mean, and donating books. I think there's just something special about comics that really lends itself to this way of engaging with them, because they're fairly quick to read. You can just read a whole comic in one sitting, and that you can't really do with just like text-based stuff. And you can even read more than one comics in one sitting. And because all of them look different, to be able to browse them and just see all the different artistic styles and see what you're drawn to. You can do that in bookshops. But this is
a different way of discovery. I really like it. It takes me back to where I discovered comic books myself. So when I was young, my parents would take me to a holiday camp, and at this holiday camp, they had a room that was filled with comic books, and I would sit there and just read. It wasn't a library as such; it was just a place where you could chuck your kids while you go, while the parents go off and do something
Sounds
else.
great.
But I found comic books there at a young age and discovered them. And like you say, I couldn't read when I was young. I had dyslexia. I have dyslexia, and that wasn't discovered until I was in my late teens. But at a young age, I wasn't connecting at school. Things weren't working for me. But when I discovered the comic books, my imagination sparked. And like you say, I could pick up one small comic book and read part of it and go through the story, and then I could jump onto another story. There was this easy flow for me in connection.
And that's the same in this setting. And I find not at Thought Bubble, but outside Thought Bubble, a lot of people still don't know, adults, that comic books can be for them as well. There's still this misconception about comics being for kids or being superheroes only, or them being violent or sexy because of the name graphic novel.
Of course.
That's how the whole event started, that I was very enthusiastic about them and wanted everyone to read them, and they just didn't know. And I would lend some books out and I wouldn't get them back, and that's why it's a reading room and not a library. But essentially I'm a cheerleader for comics.
Cheerleader for comics. What an awesome thing to be. That's really quite cool. So take me back to the beginning. You touched on it a bit there. Take me back to the beginning of this idea then. What sparked this in you to be a cheerleader for comics?
I always wanted to be a librarian as a child. And then what I just described, pushing comics onto people and not getting them back. And also combining the experiences of sitting in bookshop cafes and reading whole books before buying them. And then going to literary festivals like Hay Festival, where there's people kind of outside in deck chairs. That's where the inspiration is from. Just in each other's company, not necessarily talking, but reading together. And also a personal preference of spaces that are sociable but more quiet, because I get quite overwhelmed by all the sensory.
So that was a personal thing then, that
Yeah.
you was noticing this overwhelm in these spaces. They can be overwhelming.
I created a space that I like to exist in, and also because I have a background in event production and kind of project management and making things happen. It's kind of my passion project baby.
So you pulled all of these things together, and this is where we are now.
Yeah.
So where do you see this going then? What happened? What is the dream past this?
So I'm trying to take it to places. As a comics cheerleader, my mission is to bring this event to more mainstream spaces. So me and quite a few other comics friends are working on trying to get me into my event into proper literary festivals.
Okay, what does that look like? Proper,
as in like the Hay Festival,
okay,
Cheltenham, where they don't
long kind of established and in different, slightly different
and
fields.
quite homogenous potentially. Or we're just trying to bring some diversity of kind of expression, and also authors of comics are a lot more diverse and neurodiverse as well. So just trying to introduce comics to people who wouldn't pick them up otherwise, and providing them a space where they can sit down. They're lured in. It's like it's a honey trap.
Come and sit in this deck chair and hold this comic book and see what you discover.
Here's some nice comfy seating, and you can just flick a book, and you don't even need to read. Just see what's out there. And I'm always quite happy to recommend titles to people if they tell me what they're into. So yeah, that's one of the things. And then taking the event to awesome spaces that have inspired the reading room. So I have been to the Wellcome Collections reading room in London, which is an amazing, beautiful room. I'm hoping to run an event one day, or regular events, in the British Library, just kind of targeting kind of legendary amazing spaces, book spaces,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to bring them there. And it will be nice to get some funding for it, but
That's always a tricky one, isn't
I
it? When
just-
you've got the vision and
Yeah.
some financial obstacles are in
Yeah.
the way. That's often I find with some of the things that I'm doing that it's sharing that vision with others that have got the money and the finances that could push you on. So if someone was listening to this right now and they had the money and the finance to help you as a cheerleader and to support the comic book world, why should they invest within you?
well, not me specifically, but
Within this comics,
Yeah.
within this project that you're running.
Yeah. I brought this event to universities as well as a well-being event.
Lovely.
And so it's giving people a relaxed space that's often phone free.
Mm-hmm.
People just focus on books rather than technology. And I think under whatever capitalism and austerity, like all the art education has reduced more and more. And I think creativity in all its forms is essential for our whatever survival. And comics are able to communicate emotion and have the ability to show you how it is to be another person. And I think we really need that empathy in this world. Another thing I'd love to do is like a tour of the graphic novel reading room, like a European tour of going, or UK, going from place to place and setting up as a pop-up. I do have a tiny little van, but potentially like build a library van that you can kind of go into and then have like
go into different places.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So funding something like that would be brilliant.
Mm-hmm. These are important times to be making this awareness of the importance of comic book and bringing that to people that might not recognise it. Like you brought up at the beginning there about adults, that we view comic books for children, and I read comic books myself every day now, and they're a big part of my life and my existence, and I pass them on to my children, and my son's 19, and I don't see that ever at any point within my life or my children's lives that we will put comics down. Now it's part of our lives. But like you say, there are a lot of adults that have never touched a comic book as a child or didn't get the comic books handed down to them, so they don't experience it. So how do we get to those people that have never experienced it?
It's a good question, and I noticed that adults in different spaces are quite reluctant to even try. They're really kind of tentative and kind of just have a look, like don't have that spirit of like just trying things or the curiosity of what's this, I don't really know what it is, I'm gonna find out. Just need to just helping people open their horizons and experiencing things that isn't on their usual
radar.
Exactly. I think that's a kind of transferable skill that we can all do with.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining me
Thanks
for this
for having
conversation. I really appreciate you sharing what it is you're doing, and I really like that term that you've got for yourself, that cheerleader of comics. What a great thing that is to be doing. So just one last question for you. Where does anyone find you if they're interested to find out more about this?
So mainly on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Graphic Novel Reading Room. Very simple, and people can contact me through there.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again, Gabi.
Thank you
and
so much.
If anyone has been watching or listening, thank you for joining us for this conversation.
Pleasure. I just realised.
We're on video and audio. Well, thanks again, Gabi. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.